For me, it's experiencing a character, experiencing a film, experiencing a method, I think. And what you discover is what is revealed.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Deragh Campbell is an actor. She sat down with me on the Lower East Side of Manhattan to talk about the work.
Is there something you need to figure out before you feel confident going to the set for the first time? And if you know what that is, are you looking for that in the initial stages of the project in order to feel like you're fully wrapping your arms around that aspect of it, and then you can proceed?
There's something terrifying right now where, like, I realize I haven't acted in a while. You know, like I think I've done like 7 days of work in the past year and a half. Because I've been in almost exclusively micro-budget art house film, and that's a type of filmmaking that can't really afford COVID protocols.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I'm trying to think about what I need. I think Anne was a big learning experience for me because it really felt like I was discovering that person as I went. And as I kind of accumulated Anne's experiences, I sort of was her more as the one that possessed her experiences. And that offered me a lot of relief to not have had way too much of an idea who the person was beforehand, and to start thinking of it as me experiencing the character. That being said, preparation-wise, I think I definitely have like a period of absorption, which will be time with the script if there is a script. But also I need something that kind of gives me a bit of a feeling for the person. Like sometimes it's a landscape or something. Like I played a young woman from New Waterford, Cape Breton, out in Nova Scotia, and that was really important to be in that place and like take walks along, like walks beside the ocean, be like, okay, like what is it like to grow up in this strange town full of like clapboard houses that were made for fishermen, where the sea is just audible all the time through the walls. Actually, the house that I stayed in with some of the crew members was right on the ocean. And I woke up in the middle of the night once and like Googled if there was a hurricane because it was so loud.
Wow. Yeah, that has to affect like every aspect of your life.
Totally. Yeah.
If you're there.
I was like, oh yeah, no, this is like, this sound, this place is like part of the inside of this person.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get to this, but I'm just curious. Was Anne at 13,000 feet filmed in chronological order?
No.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Because you were just saying, like, kind of figuring it out. So as you go. So it's not necessarily like we will see some kind of settling in to her necessarily.
No, and I think what I've started finding really stimulating, and maybe I haven't gotten to experiment with it too much. Also, I'm trying to professionalize, so I also sort of have to learn how to be a reliable actor as well, how to just be able to do the job. But I am interested in like inconsistencies in characters.
Yes.
That it's like so often you kind of are meant to kind of have an understanding of a character and their behavior, and that doesn't seem to me to be very like real life. Like I certainly feel that that I can't always completely anticipate like what my reactions to different things in my life are, and I can feel like quite a different person on different days. And maybe it also helped with Anne that she also is a bit out of control herself too, so that kind of but kind of I almost look at the character of Anne as kind of like something that is cobbled together out of like a bunch of different moods, rather than necessarily one cohesive, complete person.
Yes, and I think you're hitting on what I really responded to about it. That inability to figure her out entirely. Maybe some people will be disturbed by that. But, like my wife's a mental health counselor. So at a certain point, maybe 3/4 of the way through the movie, I said, "So what's your diagnosis of her?" And she said, "I don't know." Some people maybe that might bother them, people that need everything spelled out for them. I am the opposite as an audience member. And I respond to mystery. That's just it. But let's go back, because you didn't grow up necessarily wanting to be an actor, even though your family you have a lot of actors in your family, right? Were you actively avoiding that? Which I can imagine. And just talk about like leading up to I Used to Be Darker and that turning point, if you could, and what that was all about.
Yeah, so I come from a family that is 4 generations of specifically theater actors. So going to the theater was always part of my life. The idea of people acting was something that was normal to me. But weirdly, I didn't watch a ton of movies. And I read a lot. And so what was most natural to me was, okay, I love books. Like, I want to be closer to books. Therefore, I will make books. And and so my ambition was to be a novelist. And I went to this creative writing program at Concordia in Montreal. And I liked the social aspect of the program, actually, like how you workshopped each other's work. But I found the process of writing like extremely self-conscious, and I didn't like being able to see my own motivations too much in my work, and funnily enough, like just before I met Matt Porterfield, I had the thought that I might want to try acting. So maybe I was more open to the idea than I thought. But what actually happened was just that myself and my best friend Hannah Gross went to Cinema Village and saw the premiere of Putty Hill, and were both so blown away by the film and like the sincerity. Because that was like, you know, like early 2010s when that's sort of, there was like a lot of irony in writing and stuff. A lot of kind of that sort of like David Sedaris, Dave Eggers kind of time. And what Matt was doing was so vulnerable and sincere. And I was amazed by it. And I think I like wanted, it was the same desire that had brought me to writing. Like I wanted to be close to it, you know, like I wanted to be in it.
Yeah.
And so we went to the after party. Matt happened to be casting for his next film. He cast Hannah and I in the 2 leading roles. And the first way that I thought of acting was that it's the closest you can get to the work. You know, it's like, it's the closest you can get to a text. It's the closest you can get to a story and a character. You're like, you are in it.
Yeah.
I read this book recently called This Little Art, that's about translation. And the woman, Kate Briggs, just sort of talks about how in translation you are writing what the person has written. So you have this, like just grammatically, you wrote it.
Right.
But you didn't write it, you know? Yeah. And that kind of is what acting is.
Well, that's interesting. Yes.
That like, it's my words, it's not my words.
Yes.
You know? Which is like a very strange doubling.
Yes. I think it might be very important for directors to hear that analogy.
But were you scared to like be at the helm of a film? I mean, especially from a filmmaker you just admired. Having that be the first thing you do, wasn't there an apprehension?
I'm a much more anxious person now, but I weirdly was quite a brave young person, like, or just very curious, you know, like if a narrative was opening up before me, like I wasn't going to say no to it. I was going to kind of go see what it would be like. It's funny, I was never an ambitious person. I never really made plans for myself. I was always trying to do enough that something would happen, you know? And I was so lucky for my first experience to be with Matt, because he's very good at placing you in the story. And there were some things that he taught me on that shoot that I still use as kind of anchors. Like the very first day, he just filmed the scene where it's my character alone in the family's house, walking around and looking at all the rooms. That was my first scene on camera ever. And I remember I had to like walk across a room, open my aunt and uncle's closet and look at their clothes. And I walked across the room and I was sort of like swinging my arms, like doing something strange that I was completely unaware of. And Matt was like, "What are you thinking about?" And I was like, well, the character, you know, she's guilty because she's in someone else's space, and she, you know, has love for this family, but doesn't want to overstep into their territory. And Matt was like, no, just like think about opening the door, like think about what you're touching, it's funny because I was going into it like like a reader, and I was trying to demonstrate all of my understanding of the character rather than just performing the actions.
Right. And keeping you present and getting you present in the space,
Yeah.
in the moment. And
Or like, I remember one time too, like my character has to restock some shelves. And Matt was like, you don't have to act boredom. Like what you're doing is boring. Like you just do the action.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to over signify each thing.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really hang on to as an actor too, is like, you're not the only thing telling the story, you know?
Oh, yes.
Because kind of in a weird way, like if you are constantly trying to signify the whole, you know, that's not your job. Like you are actually just providing that moment,
yes,
and then that is put into a larger grammar.
Yes. It also kind of like humbles you in the scene, right? It kind of like it takes a burden off too, doesn't it? That's got to be helpful, right?
I think so. I think if you, like that sort of actor-director hierarchy can be, you can move into this mode of sort of being like, did I give you what you want? Did I do a good job? Did I give you something that you're interested in? Which starts feeling like you're doing, like you're giving them all the authority to know like what is authentic, what is worthwhile. Whereas it's nice to think of like the actor and the director can really be teammates and really have two perspectives on what's happening. And if there's trust there, you know, you can be like, that felt really good to me, or that didn't feel very good to me, and the director can be like, no, something was happening there, you know? And if you trust the person, you're like, okay. Cool. And I really like the idea that a character is the actor plus the director, and that's what creates this other person.
And this is really something that you explored with Sofia Bohdanowicz. That relationship with her, it seems like when I've heard you talk about it, is like this perfect teammates toward a common goal, instead of like this vision that you're serving necessarily. Should we talk about it in regards to this character you've played 5 times, who is Audrey? Who was the person that was working like this first? Somebody had to adapt to the other person, whether it was she looking for an actor that was going to have this much ownership kind of over a character and be able to contribute in that way, or was it you looking for a director that was willing to let you kind of have that kind of ownership over a character?
Well, I was definitely invited to it. Like, the funny thing is that Sofia invited me to be in her film Never Eat Alone, which was a documentary, and she wanted to kind of insert herself in the film to be something that guided people through the material of the film. But she's good at everything. She's not good at acting. And I had just moved to Toronto. She invited me to play her. And so I was acting like with her real life grandmother as her. And I mean, speaking of being invited into someone else's like totally constructed world, like that was an amazing example of that. And I don't know what we were talking about like earlier with ownership. I think Sofia is an artist that really has her head in the right place in terms of she's always serving the project, you know, and it's not about her dominance over the project. It's about figuring out what it is and what it'll become. It's kind of amazing how, like, Audrey has, in different movies, like, sometimes Audrey is more her, and I really feel like I am there kind of reenacting Sofia's experience. Like, I think Point and Line to Plane is much more that. And then she kind of has allowed that Audrey is my vehicle as well, and that there have been times when Audrey is maybe a bit more me, like in MS Slavic 7, that came out of a lot, like the unhappiness I had in university of how I would have something that I wanted to articulate in an essay, and as soon as I, you know, had to put it into that essay structure and really explain to someone what I thought or felt, I would get really anxious. So what I would end up doing for these essays is I would just take endless notes, like endless. Like I would do so much research, so many notes, just to put off that moment when I had to put it into some kind of cohesive order.
Yeah.
So I feel like those monologues of Audrey's, you're really seeing her go in and out of feeling like she's been able to articulate herself. And you see her kind of get really excited about a thought and then like really disappointed when she realizes, oh no, that has again evaded exactly what I wanted to say.
And what has happened after living as her for 5 different projects, right? It's 5 now. Maybe going on to a 6th one now?
Yeah.
You know, it keeps building, like you're saying, off of the both of you kind of contributing to her and it evolving. So there must be a wonderful, very unique experience of acting as her, right? And keeping it going. And does that make things easier, more freeing in that space? Is this something that you've learned from and are applying it to other things like Anne?
I mean, it's freaky a little bit. Like I can start like when I'm playing Audrey, like I just start speaking like her. It's really strange. Like Sofia did this correspondence film, and of course it turned into a correspondence film with Audrey instead of Sofia, and Sofia needed me to record a voiceover for it, and it was really strange that I just sat down and started saying the text and realized it wasn't my voice, but it was Audrey's voice. It's like the movement into it.
Yeah.
It's almost like, okay, this is a terrible analogy, but like you don't have to pee until you see a toilet. Like I see Sofia and a camera and I know I'm Audrey.
I get it.
Like it just triggers it.
Yeah.
Like Sofia and I are so intertwined in each other's growth that if there's something that I want to try out, that becomes part of it, you know? So I think with a portrait, the next Audrey movie, which is quite a more elaborate kind of epic film, I almost want her rather than this more kind of naturalistic seriousness that Audrey has, I almost want it to be exaggerated. Like she's going to have kind of the conviction of a samurai or something, like a kind of intense hyper focus that will have a kind of a strangeness, you know. And it's been so interesting, like really starting with naturalism and like with I Used to Be Darker, and sort of being like, and then realizing after a few films, like, oh, the characters I play are more shy than I am, or like more quiet than I am. So with Anne, that was really like trying to be louder and more reactive and to reveal more and show more. And now I think I'm moving into a place where I was almost thinking of it the other day. It's embarrassing, I can't totally remember what that group of writers is called. What's the group of writers with like Georges Perec? Do you know? Where they would do certain experiments or something in their novel, like he had a novel where he just removed the letter E.
Oh yeah.
Oh
my God, was it called Gadsby?
It is something like that. But that I am kind of curious about that now. I mean, this is being super simplistic, but what if I played an entire character and didn't make eye contact with anyone or something? Like you can give yourself these kind of other, where you can make a decision like that, and that forms a character, rather than making a psychological decision about a character that then that psychological decision is expressed in some way. You can make this weird superficial decision that completely forms.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's why as I was coming over here today, I was thinking, I want someone to, like, you know, like with other artists, they get grants. I want someone to give you a grant as an actor.
I would love that.
Okay. Because this is the kind of thing, like, I can't say that about everybody. I love a lot of actors, but like, they wouldn't know what to do with the grant, maybe, right? But you would know what to do, because, like, I'm talking about, like, the grant would be toward evolving the craft a little bit. Like, a lot of people maybe just are so worried about getting something right. I feel like you're trying different things. They're really interesting, you know, and evolving.
I think what's a bit scary, though, is that I don't work that much, you know? Like, I don't act that often, but I watch a lot of movies and I read a lot, and so I think about it a lot, and it scares me sometimes that I think about it more than I actually get to do it. So that's why sometimes I can feel like a little bit of a phony or something. Like I would like to have the time to try and, or the opportunities to like put it into practice a tiny bit more, you know? I gotta get that grant.
Somebody listening? I mean,
I gotta get that grant, and I gotta get a weird like dance studio and just walk around.
Exactly. Along these lines, here's a very long quote from you.
Oh boy. Okay.
I like the idea of not being too psychological about it. Knowing that you absorb a lot subconsciously, and the more you can be present, the more you can pay attention to the things going on around you. I think the less rigid your face and your body are, the more you express and give away. And then you said, if I were a trained actor, maybe I could make more complicated decisions or something. But as it is, I feel like if I made a decision too firmly, it would maybe flatten the character. Now, I found this really, really interesting. And I think you were talking about this because when you were editing MS Slavic 7, you were discovering things, looking at yourself so much. That's the context of this, I think. And I'm seeing the benefits of this in this movie, in Anne. But how do you have this much awareness to think this and then have that much freedom in the frame?
I think both in acting and in life, the less you can think about yourself, the better. You know?
Yes.
I was really not enjoying acting for a little while, because it would be this exercise in trying to do something and not being able to, and getting frustrated, and it just felt like failing and like disappointing myself. And I actually, because I've never done training, but I went and just started meeting up with a friend of my parents, who's quite an amazing theater actress, and she started just talking to me about, I don't know, maybe things that actors are taught, I don't know, that I just didn't know, of like really paying attention to the person in front of you, you know, and that when you're doing that, like you actually, and you're thinking about the other person and how they're reacting and observing their body language and things, like you escape self-consciousness. And like that is when I started actually being able to enjoy acting at all, because it was an escape from self-consciousness, like a self-consciousness that at one period too I was really feeling a lot socially, you know, that I that now I think in social situations I try and think less about how I appear or if I'm liked and stuff like that, and that makes me just be able to enjoy other people more and hopefully be a better listener. You know. Yeah, so it's funny because it started as a way of coping and like a way to handle it, but it's actually become more fun and more rewarding, and I feel like I feel surprised more often. I feel like I'm able to discover my instincts more often.
It seems like in this movie, and at 13,000 feet, Kaz is using a lot of the techniques that you've been used to, like of mixing in documentary stuff. That's such a lame thing to say, like documentary stuff. What I mean is like putting you in real life situations that you were doing with Sofia, right? I mean, in a way. Is that just a coincidence? Did you seek that out in him? Did he realize that you work best that way, or is that the way he works?
No, it's I found myself in the most bizarre niche, like with Sofia, Kaz, with Antoine Bourges, as well. It's like I'll be the only actor and everyone else will be a non-professional actor.
Yeah.
I mean, working with non-professional actors has completely shaped the actor I've become, like, because you have to pay a lot of attention to the person. Sometimes you're even, like in the case of Fail to Appear, I was really in charge of keeping or helping Nathan to feel comfortable as well. I hope that has made me a more supportive actor. I was talking about this with an actor the other day, being like, I hope I'm a supportive actor, you know? But it's funny, like, I'd be really interested now to work with some more actors. because I'd be really curious to see. I think that would be a different kind of elevation,
Right.
you know.
And you would you be you mean you'd be curious to see how this aspect that changed you plays off of them as professionals now, or something like that?
Or more like maybe if I worked with more actors, the illusion of a fiction would be even more immersive, you know,
yes.
and I would like that immersion,
Right.
I think. And I think when I was a bit younger too, I made a mistake of like under preparing a lot. And actually I think sometimes directors too want you to be under prepared or caught off guard or something, as if that'll get your most natural reaction. Whereas I sometimes think like the first take is not always the most natural one. I think something weird about acting is because we see acting so much in television and everything, very often our first instinct is not even being naturalistic, it's being like a weird imitation of television or something.
Yes.
And sometimes I think actually through repetition and a choreography and a familiarity and a comfort and a relaxation, you actually get inside of the scene and you're way more there. Yeah. For me, it's experiencing a character, experiencing a film, experiencing a method, I think. And what you discover is what is revealed, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Like, but one common thread that I found in listening to your podcast is what a lot of actors are craving is, one, an escape from self-consciousness, and two, immersion. Like really, and as I said, I liked the Catherine Watterson interview so much, and she talks a lot about focus as being kind of the most essential thing.
And isn't that very much the responsibility of the director to set the stage for you to be able to focus properly? Do you think that?
But like, focus doesn't necessarily mean lack of distraction.
Right.
You know, like there can be uncontrolled elements around.
Right.
I think the kind of distraction that you don't want is feeling that a person is impatient with you or disappointed in you. Like, I think you want to feel trusted by the director, and getting the scene where it needs to go is both of your responsibility, and you're working toward that.
When the scene came up where it seems like you were on a first date, and you were talking about how his picture wasn't like his picture, that guy, I said to my wife, I have to rewind that scene. I was distracted. I love that man so much. I mean, I just love him.
Yeah.
He reminded me of Minion Mouskowitz, like not in quite that level of like that date with what's his name there, Val Avery, but a similar thing. But anyway, my wife said, "What are you talking about? This is a documentary." I said, "What?" So I put it on, not telling my wife at all what this was, and she thought that this was a documentary.
Whoa.
That must be a compliment to you, right?
Yeah.
But I remember thinking during the teacher meeting scene, I remember thinking, even in myself, who knows every moment that's not real in everything. Like, okay, remember thinking, was she just placed in this real meeting?
The Tinder date scene, first of all, is a very special case because, and this happens sometimes with non-actors, like I was talking about having to sustain the illusion for them, sometimes it's very much the opposite, where they believe it too much. Like they think that I'm the person.
Yeah.
Like I remember on Nathan's film, like there was an actor who, like my character had to be very mean to her. And when we were at the crafts services table, she was like, "Oh yeah, you go in front of me, bitch." I was like, whoa. I was like, oh my God. And I think that this guy thought we were on a date.
That's amazing.
And I think he was really confused that I was doing such a bad job at being on a date. And like even like between takes we'd be like so my character is a bit awkward and she's not going to set you at ease because
You wanted to take him down a little bit.
like I kind of like ethically almost like if I as a character am going to make someone uncomfortable or I'm going to be mean to them, like I need them to know that I'm going to do that. I'm not interested in shocking them in that way. But no matter how many times I told him, he just kept trying to have a successful date with me. One problem that I have, I think, with auditioning and stuff is that, like, I had a friend talk about how it's amazing conducting auditions and getting actors to talk and like how vulnerable they can be and how much they can share. And it almost scares me because I'm like, but aren't you interested in people that have their guard up? Or like, aren't you interested in people that can't let down all their walls or don't know how to be themselves all the time, that can be a little bit phony or can be disarmingly direct, and that's what's interesting to me about people, you know? And so sometimes in auditions I'm like, are you not interested in me doing a bad job? Like, are you sure you don't want this, like, really flawed, patchy actor? Because I think that's really interesting.
Yes.
But when you're in an industry that is so professionalized, you know, sometimes you just need to be able to do the job.
Right.
You know? And I'm like, don't you think we discover something really interesting by me not being very good at this?
Right. That's like Bob Dylan, like perking up when like that guy who didn't know how to play the organ was snuck in and was playing the organ in that song, like a Rolling Stone. Like he snuck in. It's like, what is that? Oh, that I'm gonna get him out of there. He doesn't know how to play the organ. Dylan's like, no, turn it up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my, you know, and then that is an amazing part. It'd be nice if like people like that were helming things. It's like, I don't know what she's doing. It's wrong. She's cast because we got to figure, you know, because that's amazing.
Actually, one time I got a call back for an audition from a director because. So I went on to like a video call with him and he's like, so sorry, I needed to call you back in for the part because I just found your interpretation of the character so bizarre. And I just like, I didn't understand it. And I just like wanted to hear like what you were doing. I was like, oh, I just was trying to do a good job.
a lot of times when I see a movie like Anne at 13,000 feet, but I mean, I love this movie so much.
Thank
So
you.
when I say like Anne, I don't mean that there is really anything like it. So, but what I mean is, when I see an indie that needs attention, needs oxygen, as I'm calling it these days, I tend to scream from the rooftops about it, and I'm preparing myself for the sadness of it not becoming, Moonlight or something, right?
Right.
But with this one, I'm going to become a terrorist if it doesn't become Moonlight. Like, I'm going to, but I also don't want it to be like a success, because I don't, and I know this is a weird thing to say, but it's mine. And I'm also worried, like, there's a bunch of people I'm worried about, actors I'm worried about. Now you're one of them. I'm not worried that you're going to starve. I'm worried that you're going to succeed. And this is going to mess up our whole grant thing. This is going to... So the question is, I guess, are you prepared for your life changing by a film like this? Which I think that this film has the potential to change, and for a career to change, or for the potential of this, because this is a performance like we haven't really seen in a while, and it's that good. I really believe that. How do you prepare yourself for this kind of thing? Do you need to focus on what you want to do in this work? And if it leads to that, great. Do you have a guard up about the potential for other things, or do you, some people who I've expressed similar worries about, they're like, no, this is acting. It's all interpretive based art. So you can't have that kind of judgment. And I could do my work in any kind of thing. And you're being a little bit too snobbish about this, Rinaldi. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Are you thinking about any of this? Do you think about this?
First of all, my life isn't going to change. I still don't have value in a marketplace. There have been moments when I've been up for larger things, and it's usually gone to a TV star that I've never heard of, because they have a statistically calculable audience, that someone can be like, she's in this, so these people will watch this,
right.
And I the people that the number of people that watch the films I'm in is very low. And I mean, yeah, it's been 10 years of being in low-budget art house films that play the festival circuit, and one of those films has led to another, and I feel extremely, extremely lucky for that. I think in terms of bigger things or bad films, if there's still something in it that would make it a worthwhile experience for me, maybe it's a bad script, but I get to play a postman, and I've just always been interested in being a postman or something, that maybe that would be enough for me. Maybe I'd just be super happy to put on that uniform and deliver mail.
Who wouldn't?
And or also I've been in these environments where I'm making movies with my friends in a very familiar place, where again, we kind of have to create the fictional aspect about it because everything else is totally recognizable. I'd kind of be interested in being in a really artificial environment and having to hit marks, and it's like I'd be interested in the experience of it, and I think I could do that without it fundamentally changing who I am as a performer, you know? I think it can't be too precious about my identity, you know? Also, I'm getting a little bit older too. Like I'm 32 now. And I
Better than the alternative.
Getting younger?
Or not getting older.
Like dying? Yes, you're right.
No, getting younger would be
I've
better.
never heard that as a way to comfort yourself about aging. Like, but you're not dead. True. That's actually, I'm surprised that people don't give you that consolation more. But yeah, I think I would like a little bit more financial security, to be totally honest.
Yes. Well, I wish that for you.
So either a big break or a grant.
Yes, I just need what
or
I
I'm
want.
getting an office job.
I just need what I want from you. Deragh Campbell, thank you so much.
No, thank you so much. Very generous conversation.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.